if you're in a desert and you see
Heat waves.
the heat waves, it looks, you call it a mirage, right? And so people in their brain, and they're losing, like, they're getting ready to faint, and they're looking up and they're seeing something, and it's not what they're really seeing, but they actually, what is that? They're seeing the mirage, right? Okay, so the scripture says, Yeshua says, he that has an ear to hear, let him hear. He that has an eye to see, let him see. So there's things that we will see as a believer that a non-believer will not see. There's things that you will understand as a believer that non-believers will not understand. There's things that you will witness as a Hebrew that a Christian can't witness. Because you will think that I came to Jesus, that I see, but there's something that they're actually not seeing. And that's what we want to talk about today. Okay. Some of the things that are not visible, but are visible. And this is what we want to talk about. The invisible things become invisible to the cold outwards. All right? So, open your Bibles, and let's look at something that the prophet was asked a question. And he didn't have the answer. But he said, yeah, you have the answer. You know it. Right? Ezekiel 37. He has been dealing with me with 3 different texts. All of them show something that's real obvious, but is not so obvious. So we're going to read the first 15 verses. And when you get there, say hallelujah. Hallelujah. So, this was a gift. I had no idea that what I wanted to teach had anything to coincide with what's on the cover. Everybody know what this is? So I did share with with Dave, Aki Dave, about the Aleph, that I was going to do some kind of a Hebrew lesson. So we're going to do a real quick Hebrew lesson. Everybody know what that is? Everybody that does not know what this is and is not an embarrassment, just raise your hand. Okay. It's the Aleph Tav. In coming into Christianity, out of Christianity, they tell you that Jesus is the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega, right? Because they're leading you down the path, the Greek route, right? So everything's Greek. So they give you Greek. The Bible was originally written in Hebrew. All of the Bible, okay? It was translated, and then it came to us as English, and certain things were dropped, or certain things were added. Some things were omitted, and some things were just changed. Like when I first came to this walk, if I said Jesus, I don't believe in Jesus anymore, people would be like, oh my goodness, what's wrong with you? Right? But Jesus was not a name that was ever called by him or anybody near him. Right? And when you ride around through our community, you're going to see crosses up. Right? and you're gonna see people tomorrow walking into buildings because they think they're worshiping Yeshua, but they're worshiping a false image. The false image is so deep that when you think of Jesus, the first thing you think of is a white guy with straight hair, right? Walking on water, and little babies walking up and sitting on his lap. Because that's what you've been programmed to accept, right? So the name was changed. All of the names in the book have been changed. It's pretty much all of them are. Like, so Genesis has no meaning to it because it's a word that they put there. But the original word is Bereshit. You heard that before? Bereshit means
I didn't know you was
huh?
Beginning.
In the beginning. The very words in the beginning is Bereshit. So why would you take that and get rid of it and change it for something else? Why would you take Yeshua, which means Yah, salvation, right? Which is his name. His name means Yah, God, salvation, right? He says he'll come in his Father's name, right? Yah is short for Yahweh, which is his name, which is God's name, which is in the book. But we look at but they switched it when it came to English. So this is so important because we're getting ready to read a text. And when you read the text, this is not going to be in the text, but it's going to be in the text.
okay.
This ish, right? Aleph Tav is 6. I just found this. I was like, are you serious? 6,000 times it's in the Old Testament. 280, I believe it was, times it's in the New Testament. It's never been interpreted. They couldn't figure out a word to put in it. It's in the middle, in the beginning, ish, created the heaven and the earth. So if you go to the lexicon, if you go and you do a little bit of study, you're like, it's sitting there. But it says it's not interpreted. So if you have a lexicon, you can quickly, you guys got phones, you can go like, okay, Blue Book or Bible Hub, and you open it up and you're like, okay, in the beginning, not the right because, right to left, that's the way it reads, right? And when you get to that, you're going to see it there. You're going to see this, right? May have some dots on the bottom, little because they try to pronounce it, right? But it's not there. It's not interpreted. So this is something that's been omitted. And so when we read through what we read, if you read through the Sefer, because they put it back in the Sefer, right? If you read through the Sefer, you're going to see it there. But it's like a empty word in the middle of a sentence. And so my brain, I look at this and I'm like, then why do you have a word and you're not interpreting it, or you can't interpret it? And why would it be there? So, thank you, Bible. So, after his death, burial, and resurrection, Yeshua was walking down the street. And these two guys were walking, and they're like, he comes up to him and says, this guy's talking about? He's like, you guys didn't hear what happened? I mean, you didn't hear what happened just a couple days ago? They killed this guy. He said he was the king of the Jews, right? We've been waiting for him to come back, and they had this long conversation. And Yeshua gave him who he was, but he didn't tell him who he was. He just started expounding on it from the beginning of the book to, and they were like, oh wow. And once they got it, he disappeared. But at that point, their eyes were open. They could see what they couldn't see, because they saw this. They were scholarly people. Apparently, they knew what they were looking at. But they didn't know what they were looking at. So they're looking at the Son of Man dying, and they were expecting something, and it didn't happen. So they were confused. So he gave them insight, right? A friend of mine, Bettner, would say it's an aha moment, right? Because you have I get it now, right? It's something that's you've been looking at forever. Christians do not have that aha moment. They see something, but they don't see it all, the whole picture. And guess what? It can't be given to them until Yah opens his eyes, their eyes. So they can look at it until they're blue in the face, and it just will not register. Because it's a spiritual thing, more than just a physical thing. So you can look at somebody and say, read it, and look at them and tell them, "Can't you just see what I just read? You understand what?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, I understand it." And it just like it goes over their head. I'm not even going to condemn them because it went over my head for years, And then when he opened my eyes, I was like, huh. So what happens in a walk with someone that's been in a Christian walk? I can only talk about where I've been. And then this happened. This was someone just shared this so eloquently on Lauren's Facebook, on her page, and they said, I was happy, I was sad, and I was mad. It was like all at once, right? Because now you're happy because you're enlightened, right? You're mad because how come nobody told me anything? I mean, how come I've been why didn't nobody tell me this? And you're angry because you feel like, wait a minute, I know you knew it. But why did you tell me? Right. So someone just shared with someone, and he says, don't tell anybody because you may be. It's like, really? Who does that? And then Sunday morning he stands up in the pulpit when he knows that what he's not teaching. And a good man, I'm not going to say he's a bad person, but he knows that he's teaching falsehood. And every falsehood, every lie, you're going to be got to answer the question on that. What happens to that? All right, so let's read. 37. Just the first 15 verses. Somebody.
The hand of Yahuwah was upon me, and carried me out in the spirit of Yahuwah, and set me down in the midst of the valley which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about. And please stop me if I'm not saying.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Look, we walk in grace, so it's not. You can read God. You can read. That's fine, because we're all growing, right?
We're gonna get a pure language one day, so it's like somebody got a southern drawl, somebody speaks the Queen English, it ain't about that.
All right. And behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Yahuwah Elohim, thou knowest. Again he said unto me, Prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim unto these bones, Behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live. And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live. And ye shall know that I am Yahuwah. So I prophesied as I was commanded. And as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking. And the bones came together, bone to his bone.
Hold on, we're going to come back. I'm going to pick you can put a marker there. Because I just got to stop. When he says the hand of Yahuwah is on him, at the very verse, the first verse? The hand is an invisible but visible thing, right? It's the word of Yah speaking directly to him, right? When you hear the hand of Yah, it's the voice of Yah. It's invisible, but it's visible to that particular person. Okay? I wanted to stop there for a second because as we read through this, when we talk about the Valley of Dry Bones and we talk about all the things that Yah is going to do here, right? It's Yah doing it. It's not us. So salvation is a gift from Yah. And it's not given because of any works that we've done. And so he uses the analogy of dry bones, dead, slain, the word slain, right? No life in them. To let you know that the gift of Yah is just that. So it's not a new thing when we find out in the New Testament that we go to Ephesians and it says that you're saved by grace and not by works, lest any man should boast. Because you find it right here. He's talking about dead bones. That means they have no life in them. For them to move is an act of Yah. For them to stand, which you're going to hear that they do later on, is an act of Yah. So for people to say, you keep the law, that means you're not under grace, is a very foolish, yes, I'll say it, stupid thing for them to say. Because now you're saying that because I obey, I'm not trusting him. That it's stupid. You can't. It doesn't make sense. And I use the word stupid because the Bible uses the word stupid, right? So he calls them stupid. Right? So when I say it, don't be offended that you hear stupid.
And they also negate the Yeshua. It says that the grace of Yah was upon him in John. So it's like, so for you to say that you're not having grace, and he kept the Torah, which was the commandments, then you contradicted what the word says of him.
So you find people in the New Testament and you find people in the Old Testament. Who was the guy that built the boat? The big guy?
No.
What did they say about him?
Crazy.
Yeah.
They said crazy. What did y'all say about him? He found what?
Favor.
Grace, favor. He found grace in the sight of Yah. Because he was living a life that was acceptable to Yah. Okay? So, all right. I'm sorry. I had to stop there. Verse 8.
Continue.
Want me to? Yeah, sure. Sorry. Are you saying verse 8?
Yes.
I looked in. Yeah, let me do this. Mine don't crack that. And when I beheld when I beheld the snooze and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, and there was no breath in them. Then said he unto me, Prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, Thus saith the Yah thy Elohim, come from the four winds of breath, and breath upon these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood up upon their feet, and exceeded great army. Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, Our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus saith the Yah thy Elohim, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves, and bring you into the land of Israel. Keep on.
No, stop there. I'm glad you asked me that. Okay? Because in verse 12, right? I have it underlined. You're going to see it here. I'll pass it around. Verse 12, right? I will open what? And there's that word. Isha? F. So there, you see it in there?
Mm-hmm.
I'll open F. All right, see? All right. Okay. Verse 12 right there. I will open. Yeah. Put my finger on it. All right. Now. Oh, she has her receipt. What's that? Oh, you saw it.
I got it.
Okay,
I got it.
you got it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's funny because when I saw this, I was like, all right, what is this? Why is it there? And then I have to deal with this, right? And so I've come to the conclusion. Neil's getting ready to make settlement for his house. I remember making settlement for this house and the previous house, that we sat at the table and they have all these papers. It's a contract, right? We're talking covenant, but this is a contract. All throughout the contract, they say, read this, read this, read this. First of all, there's no way you're going to read everything. You're taking them for their word, but then you're faking it like, right? And then it says, you see that little underline here? Initial it. That's your approval, right? Throughout the script, the initial of Yah is a mark. It's a signature, showing his very presence in this very action. So when you see this, you're actually, the only way you're going to see it is by looking at a lexicon or looking at a restored name Bible, because it's not in the King James. It's not in the ESP. It's not in the American Standard. And so they're taking something out. Now, is it important that that's not in there?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So why would they remove it? The powers to be will do anything and everything possible to get you to break covenant. So if they can just twist one thing, take something out, by the time it gets into your hands, you're like, and you think you have the truth, you don't have the power. You don't see the invisible force behind it. You don't see the signature of God's hand on it. The marking, like his initial, is so powerful that he would not even allow man, as strong as they are, as powerful as they are, to be able to interpret it. Only Yah can do that. You have a question?
And what's your analogy? That document is no good.
Right.
Without that initial, it's useless. You can't do
Exactly.
anything with it.
And so when you get done signing the papers, right, if they miss a page, the house is not yours. The contract is void. You sign on the back and you do all your stuff and you miss one page. You guess what'll happen? They'll come back and say, we missed the page and need you to initial it. I've experienced it. And they came back and they said, we missed one. Yes.
The first thing I thought was, you took coding class. If anybody ever coded something, if you one dot and you put it on your computer screen, it's an error.
Yeah.
It's gonna give you an
That's
error.
why I said dot too.
What was that?
That's why Yahshua said until not one
Not
dot.
one dot, two.
Not one dot, nor one tittle, not a dot, nor a cross and a T, right? should be removed. And if you follow the script, there's a possibility of you not getting the house.
That's right.
You know, everybody talking about, he's building me a mansion in heaven. Can't wait to get there. And you don't even have a key to get in. Because isn't that the great thing, right? We went to his house. He said, we can't go in yet because I ain't signed. I said, oh, so you don't have a key. Because that was my first question. Do you have a key? You don't have a key. You ain't getting in. Right? So you start thinking, like, this is mind-boggling, because when you start thinking, you're like, well, but are they? So you gotta answer, you gotta fill those empty spots, right? Because you don't want to start saying you're following a cult. Because they're trying to say that's about us, right? Maybe you're following the cult. Maybe you're the one that don't have your T's crossed and your dots, your periods, right? And then you're thinking that we're wrong. Where we at? Verse 12? 13. Just the last two verses.
So you want me to reread 13?
Yeah, read 13 and 14.
And ye shall know that I am the Lord, that I am Yeshua, when I have opened your graves.
When you open what?
Your graves.
In between the graves, there it is again. This is like, he's put another signature on it. So I'm looking right now, I'm like, I pulled out my other Bible, I'm like, it's not in that Bible. Right? Go ahead, finish.
O my people, and brought you up out of your graves, and shall put my spirit in you, and ye shall live, and I shall place you in your own land. Then shall ye know that I Yahuwah, has spoken it and performed it, saith the Lord. Yahuwah. Oh, boy, sorry. Yahuwah.
You did an excellent job. You did an excellent job. We're trying to right in this ship that has been turned upside down, sunken in the bottom of the ocean. Right? We're now turning it back up, right side up. You know, you ever seen a ship under the ocean? And some of them, most of them are rotted. But how do they bring it back up? Oh, this is like Revelation. What do they do to raise a ship? They put something invisible in it.
There, balance.
They put air in it. They literally will send air down and breathe into the ship. And breathe it back to life. And you'll see the ship rising all the way back up. And then when they rise it up, then they'll seal it. Right? But it takes that breath breathed into it. It could have been down there for years, sunken, and no life, dead, like dead bones. Right? Y'all just gave me this, right?
That's good.
And then once air is breathed into it, it rises back up. What Yah is doing to his people today, this week, in a time that he hasn't done this in forever, he's awakening his people. His remnant is, you see, what is it, 20 people here? This is happening across the nation, across the world, where people are literally waking up and saying, I've been fed too many lies, too many, I've heard this sermon preached. Can these bones live? Yeah, you know it, y'all. You know it, God. Shouting to you, I mean, crazy. Right? Give that man some water. Right? And people, whoa! That ain't God either. I'm going to tell you right now. All that shouting is witchcraft. It's witchcraft, bewitching you, to making you feel something. And you shouting, and then the other person feeling it, and they shouting, and next thing you know, and you're going there. Right? And when he says prophecy, when he talks about prophesying, and go back to the root word, Strong's Concordance, and it's funny because the word prophesying or preaching, it says it can be done with or without music. Which is kind of cool because I thought every time I hear an organ, something wrong. But that's not true. So sometimes we see things and we get so our feelings jump in, right? So if you hear somebody singing, you're like, oh, here goes another singing preacher, right? But he said when you prophesy, you can do it with music, do it without music. Do I have now? Whenever I say something like that, you need to question it. All right? Don't take me for, I'm not Yah. So then you need to double check and go back. Do we have somebody that we can think of that preached
David.
and sang? David. I need 2 testimonies. Somebody else?
Well, Paul sang and prayed. Well, they prayed and sang praises. I don't know if that's like prophecy and the chains released. I don't know. That's like.
Since that's questionable, we'll throw it out. All right.
Kind of Solomon with his Proverbs.
Yeah.
A Song of Solomon.
Yeah, Song of
That's 2. I got a 3rd one. I got to bring this one out. Right? Who led us out of Mizraim? Moses. You guys hear Moses singing?
Right.
Yeah, right?
Well, the Song of Moses.
Yeah.
Exodus 32.
He sang when he preached. It was a song, but it was also a sermon. Ah, you like that song and sermon? Yeah, that flowed. That flowed like your left hook.
I'm checking it.
Oh, so she gotta check it out. All right, so he takes dead bone. He hovers. He has Ezekiel in the valley, right? A valley full of dead bones. So this struck a nerve with me because what do you see when you see, use your imagination, a valley of dead bones? What do you see?
A deserted place.
Desert.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what else do you see? Do you see moisture?
No.
Dry.
I see Lion King.
You see Lion King? Dry bones. Okay, so tumbleweeds, just desert. What is missing in what we see in society, or what society is not showing us, is that, and I'm going to use the analogy of church, it's a building of dry bones. Dry, like dead. You're hearing a lot of things, but you're seeing motion, but or if your eyes are truly open, you're like, you should be sad because you're literally seeing dead bones. The wind is pushing them, but they're not. There was a phrase in here that says that even when the bones were laid out, he said he started putting, what is it called, sinew on the flesh, right?
What is in you?
Neil. Ligaments. All right. So he started putting the ligaments back onto the bone, onto the body, but the body was still not living. Have we seen this before?
Sure. Bereshit, in the beginning.
Okay, so let's go there. Now, what's your name again? I forgot. Kaz. So Bereshit 1:1, very beginning, because we're going to get to 2:7, but Bereshit 1:1 first, which is Genesis. There it is again. The very signature of Yah is in the very beginning of the book. The Aleph Tav, right? It's right there in the book. It's laid out so that you can't miss it if it's printed, but you can miss it if you're not looking at the lexicon or looking at something that is, and this was taken straight from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay? So here we are, here we have like something that's super important. So why is it out? You know, and you're not, if you go to I'll pick the church down the street. If you go to this church for 10 years, he'll never preach on that. Why? Why is it that there are certain things that are just like deliberately omitted?
Well, I would say it's just like the saying, you can't miss what you never had. So I've never seen it, so how could I miss it? You know, so it would never be brought to your attention because it's not in the Bible.
They say stuff all the time.
Right.
There you go. It's not in the Bible.
Right.
And this is, and that's, so, okay.
What? They say things all the time, like, he's the Alpha and the Omega. He's the Aleph Tav. He tell you that in Revelation 1:8. It's, if you go in your book, it's the F
If you go
right
into,
in between.
yeah.
So when they deify and magnify the Mashiach, the Messiah, Jesus, they're putting another God that supersedes the only God.
Right.
Oh, the Lord done away with. He put all that away on the cross. So how come you mad at white people with white supremacy? Or if he did it all away, and that's the whole point, the subversion.
I didn't know about the Aleph Tav being a signature throughout. But what I couldn't understand was how is it's Aleph Tav and then Alpha and Omega.
Right.
Is it because they don't sound?
Yeah,
Right.
and I had no reason, and so the only thing that I was left with is the transliteration, or etymologies, the development of the alphabet chart, but it doesn't match up with the original. There was no O. It only went to that letter.
They lie and tell you they wrote the New Testament in Greek first.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beginning of it.
So this is like, I said, I got to teach this. And then at the beginning of this new position, the new walk that I'm in, I said, it's so imperative that we take it back to the beginning. But I didn't want to start at the beginning because I've been going through the book of Yechezk'el, and I'm back into the book. But it just so coincides with today's lesson that it takes us right back to Genesis 1. Everything's working out for the good. Right? So let's just read the first 4 verses of Genesis 1. Then we're going to jump in on Genesis 2.
In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and earth. And the earth came to be formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the spirit of Elohim was moving on the face of the waters. And Elohim said, "Let light come to be," and light came to be. I'm reading from the scripture.
Mm-hmm.
And Elohim saw the light, that it was good, and Elohim separated the light from the darkness. That's verses 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm. And so it's read 5 too.
Okay. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning one day.
Okay, so there's some things here that we just cannot overlook. First, verse 1, he has the Aleph Tav twice in the text. He created the heavens. He has it Aleph Tav. Say it again, Ish. F. I'll get it. The Aleph Tav is in the heaven, and the Aleph Tav in the earth. And then the next verse says that the earth was without form and void. Kind of reminds me of the dead bones. That it was empty and that it had no purpose. The word void is symbolic of bricks that were so demolished that they couldn't be turned into any kind of structure. It was just void. It was just like dead bones. So I start seeing something there, and I'm hoping that it comes that you see it, because we talked about the waters, right? The boat, the ship, right? When you talk of water through the text, water is symbolic of what? Immersion.
Spirit, Ruach.
Yes, but put a bunch of them together. People.
Body.
A body of water, like a body of people.
Okay.
So when I looked at this, let me use my imagination. He's floating over the water and he sees a body of water, and he separates the good from the bad, the day from the night. It's my imagination. I can use my imagination, right? Just like he walks through the body of the church, the water, and he starts separating, and people start waking up. So, yes, it's a separation of day and night, but something else is happening here. He's showing you that there's a separation that's going to happen. And he's going to start pulling us out. And that's what he's doing. So I'm looking, I'm like, wow. I start seeing night, darkness, and light. So you see darkness, you're like, okay, where does darkness, like, are you using your imagination or whatever, and you're going off of some deep end? So I'm going to take you somewhere else where you're going to see darkness lit out. But before we go there, let's go. I'm going to need about 10 more minutes. I tried to get done by 3 o'clock. It wasn't working. But go to 2 real quick, because here's another person. 2:1.
All right. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their array. And in the 7th day, Elohim completed his work which he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the 7th day and set it apart, because on it he rested from all his work which Elohim in creating had made. These are the births of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that Yahuwah Elohim made earth and heavens. Now no shrub of the field was yet on the earth, and no plant of the field had yet sprung up. For Yahuwah Elohim had not sent rain on the earth, and there was no man to till the ground. But a mist went up from the earth and watered the entire surface of the ground. And Yahuwah Elohim formed the man out of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils breath of lives. And the man became a living being.
Okay, so this isn't even imagination. This is what really happened. He had the earth had some type of sprinkler system.
Yeah.
Right? It never rained. So when one guy gets up and starts saying it's going to rain, and they're like, what is he talking about? Right? And how long did he build the ark? 120 years? Was it 120? Something like that. So in all that time, there should have been somebody that came along and said, you know, maybe I should help you just in case you write. Right? You're building this big structure, somebody like, you know, waking up from this stupor and saying, well, you know what, let me go give this guy a hand because if he's right, maybe I get in. Just in case.
Right.
120 some years and no one assists him but his family. That's a side note. So here he takes this body with its sinews, with its flesh that he built, constructed, but it still was just a body. Just like taking a car with no gas, right? Or the ship that's in the bottom of the ocean. Until he breathed. Now, the breath that he breathed is not like somebody in an accident and they lost consciousness and you try to resuscitate them. This breath, it involved, it was invisible force of Yah, which is so powerful that it not only breathed into him so that he awoke, it breathed intelligence.
Yeah.
It breathed his nature. It breathed his emotions. All this stuff came from Yah. So when you fall in love with somebody, that is something from Yah. Right? When you can create music, that's something from Yah. This is when you can fight like you can fight, that's something from Yah. This is when he breathed into you, and then this would happen to Lauren when she came back to Yah, he started breathing freshness into her, where she was able to do what she never was able to do before. That's the power of his breath. So he can take a dead nothing and bring it back to life. And Yeshua showed the power, demonstrated that this through Lazarus, that I can bring him back to life by just a word, just by speaking, because he is the living word. Now I want to take you one last place on our journey to visit the invisible, right? Let's go to Romans 1. Okay? And in this text, let's start at 16. 16 to 21. Yes. Mm-hmm.
For I am not ashamed of the Surah of Hamashiach, for it is the power of Yah, unto salvation to everyone that believes, to the Yah.
Everyone believes to the Yahudi first.
And also to the Yavanah, for therein is the righteousness of Yah revealed from belief to belief, as it is written, the just shall live by belief. For the wrath of Yah is revealed from heaven against all wickedness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth and unrighteousness. Because that which may be known of Yah is manifest in them, for Yahuwah has showed it unto them. For from the creation of the world, the invisible things of Yah are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and divinity, so that they are without excuse. Because that when they knew Yahuwah, they glorified him not as Yahuwah, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened.
Okay, so I feel like I want to do a temptation song. Because there's, throughout the masses, throughout just the United States, people are caught up in their imagination. They're caught up in their imagination. What's imagination? Give me some things that they imagine, that people imagine.
Being famous. Being famous and rich.
Being famous and rich.
Well, same-sex marriages are acceptable. I mean, here it is, but that's imaginative. That's not what y'all.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Right.
You can't put a square peg in a round hole.
I was born like a woman. I'm a woman
How about
on the
that?
inside, but I'm a man on the outside.
Now that's a vain imagination. See, and I wasn't even going that deep with you guys. I was just going to go Santa Claus and Easter and
It's all the same.
you know, because they're vain imagination. Literally vain. Like vain. It has no purpose. Has no purpose here. Has no purpose there. It's not getting you anywhere. But yet we have, every Christmas, we have Santa Claus. Vain imaginations. Right? We prop up things and put it in front of us and say that this is going to help me. Ride through my neighborhood and you'll see statues in front of vain imaginations. Right? We'll put crosses on our neck. Faith stuff is vain imagination. Like this thing here that they vain imagination. Right? Hooping and hollering, just rolling. I've seen so much stuff. It's just vain imagination. You think that that's getting you to glory? That's making you walk right. The word of Yah is what changes you, not the amount of shouting that you do. And it's imperative that we read it. All of us. We need to have a book in front of us like, I got to get this in me. Because the stuff that's in the world is vain imagination. And what does it say about vain imaginations when it talks about traditions of men? I think it's Mark 6. You forsake the commandments of Yah for the traditions of man, and your worship is vain. And here it says that their foolish heart was darkened. Remember darkened? Remind you of the Genesis 1. And it started talking about creation. Right? And that's why I'm super offended when I see some things that I see, because you know better. He says you're without excuse. Because of the society and other people are telling you it's okay, your heart knows better. Your heart knows better. your heart knows better. So when you listen to the world and what they're telling you, they're going to tell you something. That's why there's so many people that are in the gay, homosexual lifestyle committing suicide, because their heart knows better. They're condemned by their own feelings. They know they're not right, and then they kill themselves because their heart knows better. It's in the Word. You are without excuse, even if you have a book that doesn't have the marking of God in there. You have it in your heart. He does not make us to go in reverse 70 miles an hour. Car's not made that way. It can go 70 miles an hour forward. Try it backwards and see what happens. It's not designed that way. So, hopefully, and I took the liberties and went going to 15 minutes over time, right? But hopefully, in your walk, your eyes will start opening. And then when you have questions, call, ask, reach out to someone to get the right answer. Because when I saw this, I was like, this is crazy. You just took something out of the book. Not just one section. I was mad when when I found out Jesus was not.
Jesus what? Jesus' name, that is not the Savior's name.
That's not his name. I'm like, really?
That's all those emotions.
I throw away dead.
Distraught.
That's why
No.
we're saying Yahusha.
Jesus is in the Bible, but that isn't his name. Jesus
Oh, I thought you were saying. Alright, never mind. Y'all confused. Yes.
He had the same surname as Joshua, son of Nun.
No, I thought y'all were saying it's not even in the Bible. Let's say I'm
Oh, no.
sure. I thought I read it.
So yeah, so that's our lesson for today.
Excellent.
Any questions?
One. So if you got baptized
Mm-hmm.
and you thought it was right, do you have to get rebaptized,
I
or you
did.
could just
I'm gonna answer that one real quick.
okay.
I did because I was baptized
In the name of
in the name of Jesus, the God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, right?
When was the word Jesus invented? About 200 years ago?
Yeah.
Right.
The letter J is so.
16.
Yeah,
They were
And so-
Yamin, James, John, they Yechezk'el and Yaakov. Like with Jacob, those names ain't,
Yeah.
they not what we were.
Yeah, so my suggestion is that you be rebaptized under the proper name, because it's Yahuwah and Yahshua and the Ruach HaMashiach. Yes.
Oh, before we finish, can I just read through?
Yes, I said it when I first met her.
Yes.
Story and
Yes.
that story.
The cheeks, everything.
Yes.
Can you read what?
What's she reading?
No, it's all right here. It looks just, yeah.
What's she reading?
Dimples.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what was the
All right. And bringing something like this to you was not trying to bring confusion, but illumination. So that hopefully you'll look it up, you do your research, and we'll see each other next week.
Do we clap?
All praise to the Most High.